What if the person you called the cops on for trespassing turned out to be the sheriff who owned the land you're standing on? That's exactly what happened to me, Sheriff Jack Harper, on a sunny Saturday morning when I pulled up to my own 30-acre plot, inherited from my late uncle. I'd barely stepped out of my truck, a half-eaten taco in one hand and the deed in the other, when a woman in neon yoga pants and a VY sword the size of a satellite dish screeched, "You're trespassing on private property! I've called the police!" I leaned over the hood, boots crunching gravel, and said deadpan, "Ma'am, I am the police." That was my introduction to Linda Voss, president of the Willow Grove Homeowners Association, a suburban dictator who thought her laminated clipboard was the law. I'd come to check the back acres, maybe measure some fence posts or decide what to do with the old shed. Instead, I got a banshee accusing me of invading a neighborhood I legally owned. Not just in spirit, every blade of grass was mine. I'd been sheriff of Carson County for 12 years, handling everything from bar fights to a rogue goat on a tractor. But nothing prepared me for Linda's fury, a woman who didn't recognize me because I wasn't in uniform. She stormed over, while VYing her clipboard like a holy relic. "This is HOA monitored land. I can issue citations." I raised an eyebrow, pulled out my wallet, and flipped open my badge. Her eyes narrowed like I'd shown her a fake ID at a bar. "You expect me to believe that?" she hissed. Her tone wasn't just ignorant, it dripped with control. She wasn't enforcing rules, she was drunk on power. "I'll have the sheriff here in 5 minutes," she snapped, dialing her phone with enough force to scare the plastic flamingos on the lawn. I took a bite of my taco. "Make it 4," I said. "He hates waiting." As she stomped off, I leaned against my truck, staring at what should have been quiet woods. Instead, rows of beige houses with matching mailboxes stood where deer used to roam. Somehow, between my uncle's will and now, Mason Builders had turned my wild land into a gated community. 5 minutes later, Deputy Sarah Klein rolled up, spotted me, and chuckled. Linda charged her, pointing at me like she was casting a spell. "That man's trespassing. He threatened me and he's eating in public, violating cleanliness standards." Sarah blinked. "Ma'am, that's Sheriff Jack Harper." Linda's jaw dropped, but she recovered fast. "Then I'm filing a complaint with the state police." "You think badges make you untouchable?" Sarah glanced at me. I shrugged. "Arrest me now or later?" Linda's face turned redder than her geraniums, and she stormed off, vowing to summon the HOA board. It would have been funny if her certainty didn't nag at me. How could she think she owned my land? That evening, I dug into county records at the station. The deed confirmed the land was Menino's sales, no transfers. Yet Mason Builders had slapped a neighborhood on it without a single permit or zoning change. The paperwork was flimsy, like they'd bet I wouldn't notice. I called Mason Builders. Their receptionist promised a callback that never came. So I went back the next weekend, armed with a folding chair and a notebook. I planted myself on my sidewalk, jotting down violations, unmarked utilities, fire hydrants too close to driveways, fake security patrols. Linda appeared in 20 minutes, hands on hips. "Back again?" I didn't look up. "Just inspecting my land," she scoffed. "This is private community property." I flipped to a highlighted clause in the deed. "Actually, I could build a skate park here. You're on my easement." Her eye twitched. "You think this is funny?" I met her gaze. "I think it's tragic for folks paying fees to someone who doesn't own the ground." Her silence was brief but telling. She walked off, less certain, more rattled. This wasn't just about me. If Mason forged documents to build Willow Grove, it was fraud, criminal fraud. And if Linda was involved, even a little, she'd face more than a fine. As I watched kids bike past houses on my soil, I noticed orange flags in the woods. Phase 2 was coming. If they'd done it once, they'd try again unless I stopped them. At the town library, surrounded by dusty folders, I found a clause buried in zoning records. Conditional annexation upon silent owner default. If an owner didn't respond to development inquiries within 6 months, the land could be annexed under an emergency housing rule. Except I had responded or tried to. My uncle's will took 9 months to process due to a county backlog. No one had notified me of a proposal, which wasn't just sloppy, it was deliberate. Mason builders had gamed the system, and someone in the county had helped or ignored it. Later, I parked near the untouched woods, where a rusted boundary marker stood. Orange stakes hinted at more construction. Then Mrs. Eleanor Tate, an elderly resident, waved me over from her porch. "Sheriff, I know you didn't sell this land," she said. "My son's a surveyor. He showed me a map that didn't match the HOA's layout." I asked why she stayed quiet. She sipped lemonade. "Speaking up gets you fined. Linda calls it disrupting community flow." She handed me a binder thicker than a dictionary, stuffed with HOA minutes, emails, and photos of Linda policing lawns like a tyrant. It was proof she turned her presidency into a fiefdom, silencing dissent with fines like one for sonically intrusive wind chimes. Back at the station, Sarah grinned over iced coffee. "How's life behind enemy lines?" I flipped through the binder. "They're planning phase 2, and Linda's either in on it or too deep in her HOA fantasy to see she's on stolen ground." Sarah snorted at a fine for an unapproved inflatable pool. I decided to crash the next HOA meeting as a concerned resident. 2 nights later, at the Willow Grove Clubhouse, Linda gloated about a 23-fan tram rise in fines like it was a stock market win. When the floor opened, I stood. "Name's Jack Harper, Sheriff of Carson County, and legal owner of this land." The room froze. Linda laughed nervously. "Is this a joke?" I unfolded the deed. "Not even a little. I'm your landlord." Murmurs spread. "I believe Mason Builders acquired this land through fraud. If so, your fines and rules might be void." A man stood. "The HOA's fake?" I nodded. "You've been manipulated," Linda shouted. "Meeting adjourned." But Mrs. Tate rose. "No, Linda. It's just starting." The next morning, I met attorney Henry Walsh, a grizzled lawyer who smelled of pipe tobacco. He reviewed my documents and sighed. "This annexation clause isn't binding without notification, and that's not your signature." I whistled. "So I've been robbed." Henry nodded. "With county complicity or ignorance." I left with a plan, a sting. Sarah and I crafted a fake seller identity, offering Mason the remaining acres. Within days, their rep wanted a fast-track deal. Too easy, they'd done it before. Meanwhile, Linda went door to door with flyers calling me a dangerous impersonator sheriff, complete with a grainy photo of me in my yard labeled trespasser. Some residents feared her, but others, emboldened by Mrs. Tate's binder, asked questions at the diner. "You own the land?" one asked. "Every inch," I said. "The HOA's fake?" I nodded. "Every fine might be unenforceable." Linda escalated, installing cameras and finding someone du la 200 for cheerful Halloween decor. But cracks widened. More residents attended meetings, questioning her. I stood outside the clubhouse with a "Know Your Landlord" sign drawing a crowd. Then a city official arrived with a bombshell, a quitclaim deed transferring my land to Mason, signed by me. Except I'd never signed it. Linda smirked. "Your story's falling apart, Sheriff." I held up the document. "Forging a sheriff's signature is a felony." Sarah fast-tracked a forensic analysis, proving the fake. The courier, a Mason contractor, confessed he was paid to deliver and vanish. We set the sting's final trap, a meeting with Mason's rep at a restaurant wired with cameras. I walked in, uniform on, as he slid forged deeds across the table. "Mind if I join?" His face paled. I bagged the EVY Denke and read his rights. Linda's emails, found in his inbox, showed her pushing the fraud, even suggesting ways to dodge. That stubborn sheriff. The arrests were public. As Linda was cuffed, Mrs. Tate held a sign. HOA, heaps of arrests. The air in Willow Grove lightened. Bushes grew wild, flags tilted, and neighbors talked without fear. Mason's rep faced fraud charges. Linda was hit with conspiracy and misusing HOA funds for her koi pond and imported plants. A county clerk, promised a discounted lot, spilled more dirt. I drove the back acres, planting a construction ceased, signed by the old marker. It wasn't legal, but it sent a message. The sting footage was gold, the rep joked about. Sleepy sheriffs, thinking no one would fight back. They were wrong. The district attorney filed indictments, and my lawyer dissolved the HOA. Residents formed a voluntary council, inviting me to their first open-air meeting. I showed up in jeans, just another neighbor. They gave me a plaque. Property of Sheriff Harper. Please trespass kindly. Kids named a new bench. Linda's time out. I laughed harder than I had in months. Willow Grove stayed. No one tore it down, but the control vanished. Wind chimes rang, trampolines bounced, and a cardboard sign read, "Now accepting common sense." As I drove home, tipping my hat to porch sitters, my land was mine again. The town had its peace. And Linda? Last I heard, she was trying to start an HOA in county jail. Good luck with that.